Recorded Books Incorporated presents an unabridged recording of One for the Money by Janet Evanovich, narrated by C.J. Critt. This work, copyrighted 1994 by Janet Evanovich, is recorded by arrangement with the Aaron Priest Literary Agency. This recording is copyrighted 1995 by Recorded Books Incorporated. In Stephanie Plum's opinion, toxic waste, rabid drivers, armed schizophrenics, heat, humidity, and hydrocarbons are all a part of the adventure of living in New Jersey. But being out of work, and out of money, and having one's car repossessed, is not to be tolerated. And now, One for the Money.
Chapter 1. There are some men who enter a woman's life and screw it up forever. Joseph Morelli did this to me. Not forever, but periodically. Morelli and I were both born and raised in a blue-collar chunk of Trenton called the Burg. Houses were attached and narrow. Yards were small. Cars were American. The people were mostly of Italian descent, with enough Hungarians and Germans thrown in to offset inbreeding. It was a good place to buy calzone or play the numbers. And if you had to live in Trenton anyway, it was an okay place to raise a family. When I was a kid, I didn't ordinarily play with Joseph Morelli. He lived 2 blocks over and was 2 years older. Stay away from those Morelli boys, my mother had warned me. They're wild. I hear stories about the things they do to girls when they get them alone. What kind of things? I'd eagerly asked. You don't want to know, my mother had answered. Terrible things. Things that aren't nice. From that moment on, I viewed Joseph Morelli with a combination of terror and prurient curiosity that bordered on awe. 2 weeks later, at the age of 6, with quaking knees and a squishy stomach, I followed Morelli into his father's garage on the promise of learning a new game. The Morelli garage hunkered detached and snubbed at the edge of their lot. It was a sorry affair, lit by a single shaft of light filtering through a grime-coated window. Its air was stagnant, smelling of corner must, discarded tires, and jugs of used motor oil. Never destined to house the Morelli cars, the garage served other purposes. Old man Morelli used the garage to take his belt to his sons. His sons used the garage to take their hands to themselves. And Joseph Morelli took me, Stephanie Plum, to the garage to play train. What's the name of this game? I'd asked Joseph Morelli. Choo-choo, he'd said, down on his hands and knees, crawling between my legs, his head trapped under my short pink skirt. You're the tunnel, and I'm the train. I suppose this tells something about my personality. That I'm not especially good at taking advice. Or that I was born with an overload of curiosity. Or maybe it's about rebellion, or boredom, or fate. At any rate, it was a one-shot deal and darn disappointing, since I'd only gotten to be the tunnel, and I'd really wanted to be the train. 10 years later, Joe Morelli was still living 2 blocks over. He'd grown up big and bad, with eyes like black fire one minute and melt-in-your-mouth chocolate the next. He had an eagle tattooed on his chest, a tight-assed, narrow-hipped swagger, and a reputation for having fast hands and clever fingers. My best friend, Mary Lou Molnar, said she heard Morelli had a tongue like a lizard. Holy cow, I'd answered. What's that supposed to mean? Just don't let him get you alone and you'll find out. Once he gets you alone, that's it. You're done for. I hadn't seen much of Morelli since the train episode. I supposed he'd enlarged his repertoire of sexual exploitation. I opened my eyes wide and leaned closer to Mary Lou, hoping for the worst.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?